I ended my engagement to my fiancée after she wanted a break to explore her ex. I sold our house and disappeared. Hello, everyone. After what feels like an eternity and $27 million later, I decided it was time to discuss what has been going on with me recently. Here's the thing. Until lately, I thought I was marrying the love of my life, Emily, 26, with whom I had been together for 4 years. For the most part, I thought we were solid, but now I'm sitting here wondering why I didn't see this coming sooner. Emily and I met at a birthday celebration, introduced by a mutual friend. She was humorous, confident, and had a no-nonsense approach that I enjoyed. I had dated previously, but no one connected with me as she did. We hit it off quickly and moved in together. After a year, things felt natural, as if we were all on the same page about professions, marriage, and eventually creating a family. She was a freelance graphic designer, and I worked as a project manager for a technology business, so our schedules were very similar. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was enjoyable. We had been discussing getting married for some time, but it wasn't until last year that I proposed. Nothing fancy, just a simple supper at home for the two of us. Emily seemed thrilled. She cried, hugged me, and agreed. That night, we began to envision our future. A fall wedding, a limited guest list, and this charming little site by the lake. It seemed like everything was falling into place, or so I thought. The initial red flags were small and evident. Little sneaky flaws that I ignored because I didn't want to overthink. For example, Emily's enthusiasm for wedding preparation faded after a few months. She was all in at first, sending me Pinterest boards, searching through wedding outfits, and asking about small details like whether I preferred tulips or roses for the centerpieces. But suddenly, it simply stopped. I'd ask her questions like, "Hey, have you chosen your bridesmaids yet?" And she'd shrug it aside. "Not yet, I'm still thinking about it." Again and again, the same thing happened with her clothing, cake, and music. Every decision we'd been so enthused about had become something she wanted to postpone. "There's still time," she'd say. The wedding seemed like an afterthought at the time. I told myself it was just stress. Wedding planning can be overwhelming, right? Plus, Emily had a lot going on at work. I assumed she'd snap out of it eventually. What I didn't realize was that her lack of enthusiasm wasn't about the wedding, but about us, the true slap in the face. One night, while we were out with some friends, someone brought up the dumb TikTok game, which you've probably seen. It's the one where you have to answer personal questions while keeping a straight face and not passing judgment. Everything was going well until someone said, "If you could relive one relationship, which would it be?" Without thinking, Emily responded, "Oh, probably Trevor." Just like that, Trevor, referring to her college boyfriend, the person who cheated on her. The moment she uttered that, the room became awkwardly quiet. She giggled awkwardly and attempted to backtrack, saying, "I mean not that I'd want to. It's just a significant element of my past." I wanted to confront her right there, but we were among friends, so I let it go. Later, when we were alone, I asked her about it. What was it about Trevor? Why would you choose to revisit that relationship? She simply shrugged it off, as if it were no big thing. "It was a stupid game, Jake. Don't take it so seriously," she grinned and shifted the subject. I didn't press it because, honestly, I didn't want to start a battle over something that could have been minor. But deep down, it stayed with me. Following that, her behavior became more difficult to ignore. She was using her phone more frequently, going through her texts with a cheeky little smile. She began creating vague explanations for why she couldn't hang out or why she would cancel plans at the last minute. "Oh, sorry, I just have a lot of work to catch up on tonight," she'd typically remark, or, "It may be I promised my mom I'd visit this weekend." The justifications were not particularly suspicious, but they were stacking up. It seemed like I had become less of a priority. Then came Friday night, which changed everything. I arrived home from work early, excited to spend the evening with Emily. I was hoping we might order in and binge watch something. A quiet night. When I came in, however, the atmosphere seemed odd. She was seated on the couch, holding her laptop, but she wasn't working. She was staring at the screen, absolutely unfocused. "Hey, I'm home," I murmured, hoping to relieve the tension. "You're early," she said as if it were a negative thing. I shrugged it off and went into the kitchen to begin preparing dinner, but the silence in the house was oppressive. Usually, she'd ask how my day was or tell me about her own. What about tonight? Nothing. Finally, I looked around and asked, "Is everything okay?" She shut her laptop and glanced at me. "Actually, there's something I need to talk to you about." And my stomach sank. You know that feeling when you know something horrible is going to happen but you can't stop it? That was me, standing there like an idiot with a spatula in one hand. I approached and sat across from her. "All right," I said. "What is going on?" She paused, as if she were trying to find the proper words. Then, she just came out with it. "I've been thinking about us and about Trevor." "I swear that." "Trevor? Are you serious?" "What about him?" I blurted out. She bit her lip and avoided my gaze. "I suppose I need some time to consider things through. I'd like to take a break and see whether there's still something there with him." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Do you want to take a break and date your ex? Are you out of your mind?" "Emily, we're engaged. It's not like that," I responded hurriedly, as if I could smooth things over. "I just want to know if I'm making the right choice with you, and if it doesn't work out, I pledge to come back." That was when I discovered just how deep her chutzpah was. She assumed I would sit around and wait for her to decide whether I was good enough. Something inside me moved at that very instant. I did not yell or blow up. I just sat there, staring at her, wondering how the hell I hadn't seen this coming. I wasn't sure how to answer it at first. Recently, my fiancée informed me that she wants to take a break to explore things with her ex, Trevor. "What can you say to that?" I finally asked. "So, what does this break mean to you?" My voice came out calmer than I felt. She straightened up slightly, as if she had been ready for this conversation. "I believe we need some space to figure things out. I'll take some time to see if my feelings for Trevor are genuine, and you are welcome to ponder on us as well." Well, I couldn't believe the audacity. "Wait," I replied, leaning forward. "You're saying you need to date your ex, but I need to reflect on us? What kind of backwards logic is that?" Emily looked away, as if I were the one acting unreasonably. "It's not about you doing something wrong, Jake. This is about me figuring out what I need." Her tone was practiced, the way she spoke, the way she avoided eye contact. It was as if she had already decided this was going to happen and simply wanted me to accept it. "You know, this sounds insane," I muttered. "You don't just put your fiancé on hold while you go play around with some guy who treats you like garbage." Her face tightened. "I'm not asking for permission, Jake. I'm telling you what I need." That one landed differently. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was angry. I stood up and began pacing, hoping to calm myself down. "So, what?" "Emily, you're just going to pack a bag and head over to Trevor's place. Is that your big plan?" "No," she insisted. "It's not like that. I don't know what it looks like yet, but I need clarity before we move forward. I owe it to myself to know I'm making the right decision." "You owe it to yourself?" I asked, laughing bitterly. "And what about what you owe me? We're engaged, Emily. We're supposed to be building a life together, and now you're telling me you need to test drive your ex to make sure I'm good enough." "I never said you weren't good enough," she replied, her voice rising. "But if we're going to spend the rest of our lives together, I have to be certain, and right now I'm not." That was it. She wasn't simply interested in exploring things with Trevor. She was also unsure about me. Even after 4 years together and all of our plans, she was still unsure. It struck me all at once. She hadn't realized how painful and stupid her plea was. She believed this was reasonable, that I'd just sit there while she figured out whatever foolishness was going through her head. I stopped pacing and really stared at her. "You know what?" "Sure," I responded in a bland tone. "Take your break." She blinked, surprised by how quickly I agreed. "Jake, I'm not trying to hurt you. I need space to figure things out." I nodded, keeping my expression bland. "All right, if that's what you need." She paused, as if she expected me to argue or fight for her. When I didn't, she stood up, took out her laptop, and murmured, I'll stay at my mom's for a bit. This isn't forever. We'll talk when I've had some time. Okay, I replied simply. She looked at me, wondering how to answer, and then disappeared into the bedroom. I could hear her moving around and throwing items into a bag. I remained calm on the couch, but my mind was already turning. If she really wanted a break, that was okay. Let her have it. Several minutes later, I heard the front door close. She was gone, perhaps believing she had abandoned me here to wait and worry. She had no idea I was not going to sit around and do nothing. She could have her fantasy, but I had other ideas. Now, I'll provide an update. Thank you for your feedback and suggestions on my last post. A lot has happened this week, and I'd like to report how things are going. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone in this community for their wonderful support. Many of you mentioned that I don't just sit around waiting, and you were correct. I've been busy putting everything into motion. First, I called my pal Ethan. He's been my best friend since college and isn't the type to sugarcoat things. After hearing the full story, he brought over pizza and we spent the entire night scheming. Dude, you realize she's going to try to crawl back once things don't work out with Trevor, right? Ethan reminded me. He was correct. Of course, the more we talked, the more obvious it became that I needed to be proactive. This wasn't about vengeance, it was about regaining control of my life. I began with the house. Emily doesn't seem to recall that it's entirely in my name. She loves to act as if it's our home, always talking about the curtains and paint colors she chose, yet I'm the one who pays the mortgage. I phoned a realtor first thing Monday morning. The realtor came by to see the property, and we decided to list it right away. The market in our neighborhood is now hot, and we already have several potential purchasers. Emily has no idea. She probably believes I'm sitting here in our shared home, waiting for her to sort out her feelings. The next step was to gradually remove her from my life. You remember those live, laugh, love placards she insisted on putting up? Gone. Did she have to have those beautiful throw pillows? Donated. Her clothing and personal belongings that she left behind. I carefully packaged them all up. But this is where I became strategic. Instead of just dropping her belongings off at her mother's house or having her come fetch them, I hired a moving company. They took everything to her mother's house and left a short note. Here's your stuff. Good luck with Trevor. I know some of you may think this is petty, but I disagree. I'm not being vengeful. I'm being efficient. She wanted some room to think things through. Well, she's got it. The most fascinating moment came when mutual friends began asking questions. Instead of playing the victim or slandering her, I simply stated the truth. Emily decided she needed to explore things with her ex before committing to marriage, and I decided I deserve better than being someone's backup plan. You should watch how people respond to that. No drama, no accusations, just facts. It's amazing how rapidly the story changes when you don't try to control it. I've also been making moves at work. I applied for a position at our West Coast office that I'd been considering for a long time. If the house sells, which seems quite likely, and I get this job, I'll be starting over on the other side of the country. Emily has attempted to contact me several times this week, first with lighthearted texts like, "Hope you're doing okay," and then with progressively concerned messages when she learned I was actually making changes rather than simply waiting around. Yesterday, she was in a panic when her mother informed her that the boxes had been delivered. "What are you doing? Why are you acting like this is over?" she texted. I kept my response simple. Because it is over, Emily. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. She began crying, claiming that she simply wanted time to figure things out, that I was being quick, and that this was not what she meant when she asked for a break. What did you expect? I questioned her, that I'd sit here like a faithful puppy while you test drove your ex? That's not how this works. But what if I realize you're the one I want? She wailed. Then you'll have learned a valuable lesson about not taking people for granted, I said before hanging up the phone. The weird thing is that I'm no longer upset. Instead, I feel liberated. Every box I pack, every move I make, feels like I'm reclaiming parts of myself that I didn't realize I'd given up. Ethan came by again yesterday to assist me with packing the house, and he also saw the change in me. You seem different, he observed. More focused. Yeah, I'm different, I replied. When Emily first revealed her desire to pursue things with Trevor, I felt like my world was falling apart. Now I see it wasn't my world collapsing. It was the false reality I'd been living in finally disintegrating. I have more things in the works, but I will hold them for the next update. For now, I'll simply say this. Sometimes the greatest way to respond to someone treating you as an option is to completely remove yourself from their list of options. Stay tuned. I appreciate all of the feedback on my recent update. Things have escalated significantly, and I'd like to tell you how the situation has evolved. Remember how I mentioned applying for the West Coast position? Well, I got it. The timing could not be better. The house is under contract and the closing is slated for next month, but that's only the beginning. What's particularly interesting is how Emily's Trevor exploration is unfolding through mutual connections. I discovered that the renewed passion between her and Trevor isn't quite the fairy tale she envisioned. Apparently, 4 years haven't changed him much. He's still the untrustworthy guy who cheated on her in college. Then, came when it got good. Emily has attempted to control the narrative on social media. She has been sharing vague, inspiring phrases about finding yourself and following your heart, so I decided to play the same game but with a twist. I created a single factual post update on my life. Excited to announce I've accepted a position in San Francisco. Sometimes, when one door closes, better ones open. Looking forward to this new chapter. The comments and texts began pouring in. People congratulated me, inquired about the relocation, and, of course, wondered about Emily. I kept my answers basic and honest. We're no longer together. She wanted to explore other options, so I'm exploring mine too. This set off a fantastic chain reaction in our social circle. Remember those friends who weren't sure about the situation? They watched me handle this with grace, while Emily's cryptic relationship quotations completely changed the atmosphere. Then came the professional consequences. Emily's freelance design employment is primarily based on recommendations and networking. Lauren, 29, a mutual contact in the computer field who used to refer many clients to her, contacted me. I need to know what happened, Lauren explained over coffee. Emily is telling people you're having a temporary separation to grow individually, but something feels off. I shared with Lauren Emily's note about wanting to date Trevor. Lauren's response was immediate. I did not believe it. By the end of the week, numerous potential clients had pushed back their projects with Emily. Not because I said anything nasty, but because, honestly, who wants to work with someone who takes commitment so lightly? Emily sensed the shift. Her texts became more frequent and frantic. Why are you telling people about Trevor? You're ruining my reputation. This isn't fair. I just needed time to think, she pleaded. My final response was, time and space. You got what you wanted. How I spend mine is no longer your concern. Then came the turning point. Trevor, in his wonderful wisdom, shared a photo of them together at the restaurant where Emily and I had our first date. It was evident she was attempting to recreate our history with him. It was both sad and funny. The post didn't last long, but the damage was done. Our friends witnessed it, and even the remaining few individuals who supported Emily's narrative lost respect for her. Even her own sister contacted me, saying, I'm so sorry about how she's handling this. You deserve better. What was the most satisfying part? I didn't have to be vengeful. I simply lived my life freely and honestly, whereas Emily attempted to play both sides. The truth has a way of emerging. Yesterday, she visited my office. Trevor had already revealed his true colors, flirting with other women, being untrustworthy, a familiar story. She was crying. I made a huge mistake, she cried. I was scared of commitment. I thought I needed to know if there was something better out there, but I was wrong. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I simply gazed at her calmly. No, Emily. The best thing that ever happened to me was you showing your true colors before we got married. She attempted to argue, claiming that we could fix this, that she would go to counseling and prove she could be trusted again. I simply shook my head. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about Trevor anymore. This is about you thinking you could keep me as a backup while you explore your options. That's not love, that's convenience. She left my office distraught, but I felt better than ever. The house closes next week, The majority of my belongings are packed, and my new life in San Francisco begins in a month. The funny thing is that some folks think I'm being overly tough. Everyone makes mistakes, they explain. However, this was not a mistake. It was a choice. Every time she texted Trevor, every time she lied about where she was, every second she spent planning to put our relationship on hold, these were all options. I'll provide another update once the move is complete. For now, I'll leave you with this. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, but rather getting better, and this is exactly what I'm doing. Thank you for following my journey. This will be my final update, and I have some interesting developments to report. San Francisco is everything I imagined it would be. My new apartment has a stunning view of the bay, and the tech scene here is fantastic. My new office team is amazing. It's refreshing to be around people who prioritize growth and innovation over drama. But first, let me catch you up on how things ended back home. The closing went smoothly, and the house actually sold for more than the asking price. It was interesting to see Emily's reaction after finding out through mutual friends. She didn't believe I'd sold the house until she drove by and saw the new owners move in. Then, things got really interesting. Remember Trevor? He reached out to me, of all people. He sent me a long message explaining that he never meant to cause problems, and that Emily had contacted him first, months before she requested the break. Emily had been planning her little exploration for quite some time. She had been messaging Trevor for months, carefully laying the groundwork for her backup strategy. The irony? Trevor ended their relationship because, as he put it, if she could do this to you, she could do it to anyone. Emily's professional fallout has been significant. Remember all the clients she'd lined up? Most of them discovered other designers, not because I said anything, but because word spreads in the industry. One of her largest clients even contacted me. We heard what happened with the engagement. We're looking for someone who can commit to long-term projects. Do you know any reliable designers? I recommended a talented acquaintance of mine, and she received the contract. Karma, I suppose. Emily's social media meltdown has been something to see. First came the sorrowful quotations about losing your sweetheart, followed by angry posts about toxic people who can't handle growth. Finally, she made urgent attempts to show everyone how delighted she was. The final post was quite interesting. She wrote about beginning her own design firm. 3 days later, she began sending out job applications. Last week, her sister contacted me again. Emily has apparently been staying with her parents, stating she needs time to heal from our separation. Her sister's exact words were, "She really thought you'd wait for her when you sold the house and moved." It broke her fantasy completely. The most reassuring moment occurred during a video call with our old friend group. They were telling me about local gossip, and someone described seeing Emily at a coffee shop explaining to a potential customer why her portfolio website was down. Apparently, she forgot that I was the one who set it up and maintained it, and she couldn't figure out how to restore her hosting membership when it expired. Not my concern anymore. My new life here is coming together well. I've joined a local rock climbing club, begun taking Spanish lessons, and even adopted a dog from a local shelter. His name is Zeus, and he's a great companion, certainly better than my ex-fiancée. The tech community here is really inviting. Last week, I was invited to speak at a developer conference, a chance that wouldn't have happened if I had stayed at home. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you're not dragging dead weight. I had one last interaction with Emily. She sent me an email requesting some old images from our shared cloud storage. I had previously downloaded what I wanted and terminated the account several weeks ago. Her email stated, "I know you're trying to erase me from your life, but you can't just delete our memories. Those 4 years meant something." My reply was simple, "You're right, those years taught me what I don't want in a partner. Thanks for the lesson." Some mutual acquaintances believe I'm being very harsh and should be more understanding of her moment of confusion. However, that wasn't a moment. It was a calculated decision to keep me as a safety net while she pursued what she believed was a better option. What is the most important thing I've learned from all of this? Sometimes, the worst things that happen to you result in the best outcomes. If Emily hadn't shown her true colors, I could have married her only to learn her genuine personality years later, possibly with children in the mix. Instead, I'm in a lovely city with a wonderful job, making new friends and feeling optimistic about the future. The anguish of betrayal has been replaced by thankfulness that the gunshot was avoided. That's it for today's story. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more wild Reddit stories. Until next time, stay curious and keep the stories coming.